Welcome back to Behind the Curtain Finance with Thomas Manetta, and we're glad you're here. Last time, Thomas talked about tax planning and how he views it as one of the most important stages of the financial planning process. Today, Thomas, you intend to tackle estate planning and how you incorporate it into your process, as well as the important role it plays in your focus on alignment. I got that right?
That's absolutely right. Estate planning is one of those things that people tend to put off, or they think they have it right, or they avoid it because of the cost, which used to be very prohibitive. But if you don't have a plan in place, a really good plan, some really bad things can happen. Money is money. It's awful when a lot of money is dropped into a family conversation that was otherwise unknown. And then it becomes a factor that, really it can reveal people pretty quickly. And not having a plan in place, to clearly, define the estate distribution and for everybody, leads to bad outcomes.
I think we were saying that we've seen people turn and become people that you didn't know when they realize there's money.
Yeah, it's been my experience. Even brothers and sisters, once an estate, they find out how much the estate is worth. More often, unfortunately than not, one person in that party will become a completely different, a completely different person, and will want to fight for the last penny, and will take it through court, and they'll take it through, and ultimately, the attorneys will get the lion's share of it all, because they're more than happy to see you fight over it. And so it's really, really important to, let people know that it's easier than ever to get an estate plan set up. And I mean, drafting a trust, having a will, having advanced healthcare directives, having power of attorney if necessary, durable power of attorney if necessary. All of the things that you may not think that you need, but life, can prove you wrong really quickly, and not having it, again, really exposes you. So, the reason why I think it's, something that I incorporate into my practice is because it's something that I can offer to clients for free. So I can pay I have software that will draft a will, a trust, advanced healthcare directives, power of attorney, all of the things that are necessary to establish an estate plan. And I pay for that. And so they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to go into an estate planning attorney's office and, endure 2 to 3 hours of a difficult conversation. They can go through a questionnaire, online, and we can work through the setup of an estate plan, which is, for me, the kind of thing that, really, furthers that alignment with the client, because I'm looking out for more than just their investments, taxes that we talked about last week. It's more the whole picture. And you're really trying to round out that kind of holistic planning approach. And you can do it now, in ways that you never could have before. And I think it's going to be even more accessible to people, going forward, which is something that we can talk about maybe at the end. But yeah, it's really important. And I'm glad I get to do it for my clients.
Do most people, in your experience, wait until the last minute, or do some people really do plan ahead?
I have both. I've experienced both anyway. Those that are very proactive, even I've had younger clients who are very proactive about doing it, just so they don't have to worry about it anymore, which is great. But then you have others that find it, difficult to go through the process, and that they're wary of it. But once I show them how easy it is, and walk them through it, I think it gives them a lot of peace of mind. I don't know. I mean, I've had people that have brought me their estate planning documents, and they say, well, I have no idea what this is. And so the great thing I don't even know what my estate plan really is. Can you help me decipher it? And I'm glad to do that, because I can take all of those documents and in PDF form, I can upload them to the software, and it will show them a really clear flow chart of who, where the money's going, what parties are responsible, who, the executor, and who has different responsibilities throughout the family. And it's a really, really wonderful conversation, because it's like an aha moment. They're like, oh, I had no idea it was like that. We should change that. And so we go ahead and make whatever changes they need. Some of this stuff can be really complex, because if you're not really familiar with how a trust, establishes successor trustees and your responsibilities, should you become like in a bypass trust, if your husband passes and then you receive the money, what does that really mean? And then, what do I need to do next, kind of thing. So it's another layer of protection for clients. And I think it's a really necessary conversation to have. Yeah.
With your, I won't say emphasis, but you focus on estate planning as well as every other part of your process. Do you see that this improves your relationship, enhances your relationship with your clients?
Absolutely. Okay. Because it shows a side of them that you otherwise wouldn't know about. What do they want their legacy to be, if they've even thought of it, right? And who in their family are they trying to take care of, and why? And so, in all the other jobs that I had prior to now, estate planning wasn't a really big part of the conversation I would have with the client, if I had it at all. Because it was always deferred to an estate planning attorney for much the same reasons as taxes. It would be too much liability. That's not something you should do. Let the estate planning attorneys handle it. That's changed, so much in the last, 5 years, where these platforms like wealth.com and Trust and Will and Estately and Estate Guru, they actually are, making it much easier to have the conversation and draft these legally enforceable documents. And they also have attorneys on call. So if you ever get into a complex situation, you can, refer to an actual attorney, bring them into it, and make sure that everything's crystal clear and it's all legal. So, I think it's a much easier now than ever before. And, it definitely, enriches the relationship, because a whole other side about, someone and what they're thinking.
What do you do differently now that this has become so important to you?
Well, obviously I've set it up so that the clients don't have to pay for any of this process. So it's intentional. So I've intentionally set up this resource for them, and so it's a part of the early stages of the planning process where I'm not afraid to talk about it, because I'm almost excited to say, what, I can take care of that for you, and I'm going to make sure that we get it right, and then we can just move on. But let's just make sure we've got it, right, and we have it in place. And if we ever need to make changes, it will be right there for you, and you can amend it whenever you want, and you don't have to worry about it costing you anything. We'll just make the change as life evolves. And I think that further establishes trust with the client, and it makes them feel comfortable. It makes them feel like you're taking care of them. And that's the whole point. So, I think it's, the intention is to make, things like estate planning and tax planning less painful, but, more clear.
Have you found errors in documents that people brought you?
Yeah, I've had experiences where even the estate planning attorney has made errors in drafting an estate plan. I'll give you an example. There were one of the women that we talked about in an earlier episode, her sister passed. And before she passed, we redrafted her trust. This is when she had an estate planning attorney, and she did it. And I wasn't close enough to her yet when she had this done. Mm-hmm. And then she gave those papers to me. And when I uploaded it to the software, we realized that it wasn't an amendment to an established trust. It was a completely brand new trust. And it was set up, it was flawed because it didn't amend the prior trust, which was still in force. So now you have two trusts. Which one is enforceable? And when we realized that the house that she was trying to sell was in that old trust and not the new one, we had a lot of difficulty trying to change the deed into the new trust, because there was that conflict between the two. And so things like that can happen, and you may not even know it. And so being able to put that through the software and then seeing that was, something that was such a value add to them, because they could see that needed to change.
You're talking about software a lot. What about AI? Do you see that getting involved in estate planning? Because sometimes it sounds like it does get a little complicated.
Yeah. So AI is already embedded in the software, the tax planning software and the estate planning software. And so it reads your estate plan in seconds, and then it will, construct these flow charts and everything. And what is really, really amazing and exciting, and I'm glad we're going to jump into it, is that I've been having this conversation over the past week about where all of this is going. And right now, the software that I have for each is in a different silo. So there's estate planning, there's tax planning, there's investment planning, and they're all different. They're even the financial planning. It's all different software at different places. So different login, it's a different,
right.
I have to log into all these different platforms, and they don't talk to each other. But what's really exciting about AI and what's going to happen in the next 2 years is there's going to be a custodian, and I'll bet all that I have that it's going to be altruist, that's going to bring all of those software packages in-house at the custodial level. And where it gets really interesting is that when they add an agentic assistant, which is when these models become even more intelligent, all of these different software, these silos will talk to each other. And so it will be in real time, and it will adjust as your life adjusts. So your bank account will be linked, your credit cards will be linked. So you have like this cash flow analysis that's going on behind the scenes. And what it's really doing is letting you know how financially fit you are. So it's kind of like a sports, like I have an Apple Watch that I use for to track all my steps or whatever, and whether or not I'm working out, which I do, and I find a lot of value in it. And I think that I think pretty soon, within the next couple of years, you're going to have something very similar to that, where you can see through one app on your phone exactly where you are and whether or not you're spending too much, or where the gaps are in your tax planning, and exactly what your estate plan is, and it's there for you, just immediately accessible for you in one place. And what really excites me about that is that it makes it really affordable and accessible to so many more people who need to have really quality advice. It will be right there for them. And they'll be working with someone that only has one thing in mind, that is their best interest. So that kind of solution is really, I think it's coming, and I'm really excited about it.
All right. And this kind of makes me think too, when did estate planning really start? From that point to now AI getting involved, those are huge jumps.
Yeah. So do you mean like when they first,
when did we start putting papers to estate planning?
Wow, that's a good question. I think that I would have to imagine that it's not as old as you think, and I think that because maybe it was the turn of the last century, not recently, but 1900 when these huge wealthy families wanted to make sure that they passed on their enormous wealth to the right people. But in terms of everyday conversations, it used to be you just had you had a will, and that was enough. And then it wasn't enough, because your estate could go through probate, which you don't ever want to happen ever, because nobody wins in that situation. It's expensive, it's long, it's drawn out, and attorneys get involved. But I don't know the actual answer to that, but I'm going to find out, because
it seems curious to be. It came about at some point, okay? People
Sure.
really wanted to know. They wanted to have definitive, and I'm sure they toiled over those pieces of paper, and the attorneys were there earning their money. And now suddenly we've evolved to the point where AI can look at this. As you say, the silos will all talk to each other.
Right. Yeah.
And AI within minutes can say, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this.
People
The
talk
difference.
about how afraid they are of AI and all the bad things that can happen. And those problems are legion. But should this become one of the more positive outcomes of AI, I think that is something that is, that can change the landscape of maybe the wealth disparity that we've seen in this country, when people actually have access to solid advice from people that are caring about them and not trying to rip them off. And they have all these tools that can make sure that they're financially fit in ways that they didn't have before. Why wouldn't you want that? Why wouldn't you? And I think when you look back at, some of the more famous estates that, that went awry, that were not set up right. Like Michael Jackson's was for some reason not set up appropriately. And you would think that he would. And
look at Prince too.
Prince
had nothing.
Another great example.
Yeah.
And why? Why wouldn't that have been done by the people that were taking care of him?
Yeah.
That should have been one of the more important things in the conversation around, the stewards of his money or whatever. And to think that it can be now really easy, and not cost the client anything. And you're doing that, can only lead, I think, to positive outcomes throughout society.
Do you need a lot of money to need an estate plan?
I think you should have an estate plan regardless, even if it's just, you just set up a will and a trust, because if it doesn't cost you anything, why wouldn't you just do it? Yeah. And then have it in place, have it and not need it is better than not having it and needing it. Right. So,
yes.
And of course, the more money that you have, the more complexity comes in. And then you really need to make sure that you're aware of the current estate tax laws and some of the changes that may come or may not come at the end of this year, and plan accordingly, because there are ways to effectively manage your estate so that the money, goes where it should, and it doesn't go to the state or the government, and it doesn't go to lawyers. So, but yeah, I think everyone should have something. Yeah.
All right. We've covered a lot of ground here, Thomas. Is there something we missed that you want to make sure we do mention?
The thing that I was so excited about, I think you could tell, was that is that we were having these conversations. I was having direct conversations with the CEO from Altruist through a direct message about where this was going, and then the conversation just blew up, and now more and more people are talking about what this could possibly mean, because it's coming faster than people think. And so
you're talking about AI here.
I'm talking about AI, and I'm talking about those firms that are out, that the legacy firms that are out there have technology that's outdated and won't be able to add this, this new kind of service, because they're they call it the API of these legacy custodians is so archaic that they won't be able to adapt fast enough. And so the firm like Altruist, who's 6 years old with brand new technology, has already set itself up to be maybe the only one that can do it, at least in the beginning. And to think that I'm already there and I'm already trying to get the message out about how you can be a conflict-free advisor on that platform, and because that's all they do, it's exciting to be a part of it.
That's awesome. All right. Well, how can folks reach you, Thomas? Because I know, I'm pretty sure there'll be people saying, I got to talk to this guy.
That'd be great. You can reach me at my website is www.manettawealth.com. If you want to email me, it's thomas@manettawealth.com. And you can find me on YouTube. This channel, Behind the Curtain Finance, can be found on YouTube with all the episodes. And please subscribe.
All right there. Subscribe, follow the podcast, share it with others. This way you're going to know when there's a new episode ready for you. I'm Patrice Sikora, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you for listening to Behind the Curtain Finance. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.manettawealth.com or give us a call at 415-640-2121. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Manetta Wealth. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Copyright 2025. This content, which contains security-related opinions and/or information, is provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon in any manner as professional advice or as an endorsement of any practices, products, or services. There can be no guarantees or assurances that the views expressed here will be applicable for any particular facts or circumstances and should not be relied upon in any manner. You should consult your own advisors as to legal, business, tax, and other related matters concerning any investment. The commentary in this post, including any related blog, podcasts, videos, and social media, reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of the Manetta Wealth Management employees providing such comments and should not be regarded as the views of Manetta Wealth Management LLC or its respective affiliates, or as a description of advisory services provided by Manetta Wealth Management or performance returns of any Manetta Wealth Management investments client. References to any securities or digital assets or performance data are for illustrative purposes only and do not constitute an investment recommendation or offer to provide investment advisory services. Charts and graphs provided within are for informational purposes solely and should not be relied upon when making any investment decision. Past performance is not indicative of future results. The content speaks only as of the date indicated. Any projections, estimates, forecasts, targets, prospects, and/or opinions expressed in these materials are subject to change without notice and may differ or be contrary to opinions expressed by others.